It'll be interesting to see if Zahibo has to serve a suspension or not. Obviously, you want to get in as many games as possible in the preseason.
I know the Revs dealt with that situation last year. I believe London Woodbury was issued a red card in one of these matches out here and did have to serve a suspension in the next game. That would be a blow for the Revs, obviously, as they're trying to get Zahibo as many minutes as possible. But if the Revs, we've heard rumblings about a potential reserve game in the next couple days. If there is a reserve game for the Revs, have to imagine Zahibo sees big minutes there to get him an opportunity in a match situation.
Scott Caldwell there with the stop, but we'll restart for Dallas. So Carter looks like now trying to build out of the back. They are pushing a few more bodies forward.
Yeah, they're really trying to work on the communication, the rotation of kind of the back five, including those wing backs, if you will. You know, when the ball's on one side of the field, they want the other wing back to dip back and almost serve as a fourth defender. So that's something the team's really trying to work on, but you want to get numbers forward. So like right now you see you have Ja'Cory Hayes and Victor Ulloa in the midfield kind of pushing up. So Reggie Canna is not necessarily overlapping on that side, covering for Ryan Hollingshead, who's still up on the wing just a little bit.
So Mosquero, strong coming forward. So he's ranging to fill a little more space on the right side of the attack.
It almost looks like Dallas has kind of shifted into their 4-2-3-1 right now, with Hollingshead moving up to the winger, and it's something when he's on the field, especially on that left side, you can go back and forth between these two formations very easily because he's a player who's played that left winger role. He's also played a left back role, so it's a very flexible formation when Ryan Hollingshead is on the field because he possesses the ability to do both of those roles, and you can really go back and forth an infinite number of times. So right now we see Mosquera kind of on the right wing side, Diaz playing your number 10 and Arudi up top, and now it looks like Hollingshead's dropping back a little bit more now. So Dallas is really trying to work on a fluid formation here between a 3-5-2 and a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, the common thread seems to be Arudi in the middle, and Diaz is roaming, and yeah, so it's interesting to watch Mosquera now in some space on the right. We'll see if that results in something good. I mean, he's certainly fearless just handling the ball by himself.
And just 20-30 minutes of watching him during his first training session yesterday. He's very technically gifted, had one absolute screamer of a goal. Just lots to, 30 minutes in training is hard to really get a good look at a player, but a lot to potentially be excited about for FC Dallas fans.
Nice bit of defense by Nedyakov. Still Revs ball, so the Revs still a lot of possession. Nice ball through. And back on the defensive end, you just talked about him. Hollingshead denying, sets up a corner.
Really nice to come back and slide and dispossess that pass or intercept that pass in the box.
Caldwell got that all started, combining with Bai for the Revs, and now here comes the corner. That'll be Rowe, Kellen Rowe. Somi. Now Inebaba. And Dielna. To the top, ball's loose. Now controlled. So FC Dallas very patient there. And they still get the clearance, but can't get it past midfield. And now Fagundes. Hit a wide, good service, redirect on the header, but not strong enough. That was right.
In a lot of ways, the Revs picking up in the second half where they left off in the first. A lot of the ball in the attacking third of the field. FC Dallas staying compact, looking to break, and it's up to the Revs at this point, trailing by a goal, to break Dallas down.
Pania committed the foul, but New England got the ball right back. Here it is.
Mauro Diaz doing a nice job right before he got the ball there, working back towards the ball, giving Reggie Cannon an outlet, and really forcing that foul by some nifty footwork, causing Scott Caldwell to lose his footing, really drawing that foul. And that's what Mauro Diaz does. He's one of the most fouled players in MLS when he's at the top of his game, because there's not a whole lot of ways you can stop him. You have to bring him down illegally, or he's going to expose you.
And from the Revs' perspective, not a bad foul to give away in that area from Christian Pania. It's deep in the defensive half, or attacking half of the field. You're preventing Dallas from breaking out quickly, and if you can give away a foul here or there like that, the Revs are certainly going to take it.
Especially when you look at Dallas's counterattacking ability. If you have to take that foul, like you mentioned, deep in the attacking half, you got to do it to prevent something the other way.
A big opportunity here for the Revs. Restart coming from an excellent spot just at the corner of the box.
It's one of those dangerous areas where you can whip it on goal or straight across the face of goal and make it a nightmare for a keeper.
Fagundes goes through the box. And you saw, I think it was intended for Pania, but he went down. But possession's maintained.
A little surprised Fagundes went for that kind of ball in that area. You figure when you have the opportunity to whip it into a dangerous spot, but he felt like he was going to have a runner at the top of the box. Just didn't really work out.
There's another chance, and there's the finish. And the Revs level us at 1, and it is Pania who's been lurking for quite a while. 55th minute.
It's Christian Pania's second goal of this preseason. It'll get Revolution fans out of their seats. It's a decent finish. It's in a good spot. He's going to feel like he should finish from there, and he does. It doesn't quite have the highlight quality of his first goal against the New York Red Bulls in preseason, but this is an important finish as well. Just kind of, as you mentioned, Bob, lurks at that back post. Ball finds him, and when you're in that area with the chances that the Revs have had through these first 55 minutes, finally finding that finish.
And that was still the harder post to go for, but it did not give the keeper an opportunity at all. So well done by Pania, who's been waiting for this all day, it seems. So now at level, let's see if the Revs continue the pressure.
Interesting on Pania as well. A lot of times when you see guys score in preseason, they kind of immediately just start wandering back to midfield, little high five with teammates here and there. But both goals Pania has scored, he's gotten a little bit of a celebration in. This is a guy who loves scoring goals.
And he's right in the middle of things again, combining with Somi. Dallas with the takeaway, trying to clear it. That was Yola.
This is important here for the Revs. You see Pania 30 seconds after he gets the Revs on the board, he's putting in the work defensively, and I think with the way the Revs are going to play, with some of the pressure they're going to apply on teams, they're going to need the wingers to put in that work defensively. So Pania has he's shown an electric ability going forward, incredible pace. He's an exciting attacking player, but he also has to put in that work defensively, and he's been doing that throughout preseason.
Gabriel Somi, the Swede, with the throw-in. And some help defensively coming from Aridi. Aridi showing his range.
Victor Ulloa is still arguing that throw-in just a moment ago by the Revs. He thought Dallas earned possession when that ball went out of bounds. They have it now.
And there's Diaz working with Aridi. Looking for Kindley. Let's see if they can hold the ball in. They do, briefly. Hayes.
Tesho Akindele subbed on here for Ryan Hollingshead just a minute ago. I guess while the action was at the other end of the field, but Tesho Akindele coming on, and I think Dallas is really going to play in that 4-2-3-1 right now with Tesho on one wing, Mosquera on the other, and get back to their natural formation.
And you see Mosquera is now working out of the left side primarily. Reggie Cannon. Akindele. And there's Mosquera into the box. Some good patience here. There's the Atre, centered up and cleared. It'll set up a set piece. That was a good saving play defensively with the ball right in front of the net. Farrell got in there. But now Dallas will get a corner from the right side.
The Revs defending for one of the first times in the second half. Got a little static there. The movement picked them apart a little bit, but Andrew Farrell in the right spot to clear from there, and that's one of those balls that as a defender, you hate to see a ball whipped across the face of goal while you're facing your own goal. It can really hit you and go anywhere, but Farrell positioning himself well enough to get it around the post.
That one even took a deflection after Farrell got off of it. Still went out of play, but lots of bodies in front there. Really anything can happen on those. You have such a short time to read and react and really get the right angle on your foot or on your leg to get that ball out of play.
See a change here for the Revs at left back. Gabriel Somi, a solid 60 minutes today, replaced by Chris Tierney, the veteran in his 11th season with the Revolution.
And again, if you're not familiar with preseason, substitutions are much less formal. First, there are unlimited substitutions. There is no re-entry. And in many cases, the sub will come right to the fourth official, be sent in at the first opportunity rather than waiting for the more natural breaks in action. So when we talk about somebody being subbed in as the ball comes from the other end, that is perfectly allowable this week. It will not be March 3rd when the Revs are in Philadelphia. And of course the home opener, March 10th, with the Rapids. Now Colorado is training here. We're not going to see them in this group. They're here. They're playing some other games. They are playing the Phoenix Rising USL club.
And the Revs will play 12 of their first 19 games at home this year to kick off the Brad Friedel era. You look at the Revs' home record last year, 12-2-3, the best home record in Revs history, one of the best home records in the league. It was that road form. Didn't pick up their first road win until the last game of the season. That really prevented them from being in the playoff mix.
Fagundes got it into the box. Now he's going to try to keep it from being cleared.
That's a home field advantage to kick off the year. Dallas with their first 4 MLS games of the season at home as a very light schedule to start, factoring in some potential CCL play should the team advance past the round of 16.
Yeah, the flip side, obviously, it puts a little bit of pressure on the Revs to perform early with 12 of 19 at home because they finish with 10 of 15 on the road. And after struggling as much as they did on the road last year, that could be a daunting stretch to close the season. So the Revs are going to have to start piling up some points early in the season or really start to put it together on the road late in the season.
Especially when you consider MLS is all about getting hot at the right time, especially late in the season. That's a daunting road stretch for the Revs.
Yeah, you're always trying to temper the fans. You know, it's like it's early in the season. Yes, we're off to a great start. This is a beautiful thing, but don't get too worried if things aren't perfect in May.
And there's always that balance, right? Because it does it does depend on how you're playing going into the playoffs, but it is a cliche to say every point matters. The Revs have gone into late season the last couple years. 2 years ago, missed the playoffs on goal difference. Last year, missed the playoffs by, a point or two. And, those points dropped early in the season can come back to bite you.
Pinea, little chip in. There's the header. Just over the top. Brian Wright was there. He's pointing at the corner saying, wait a minute, the defender got it too, but this will be a goal kick.
It's a great run from Brandon Bye to get into a dangerous position. Christian Pinea, great little ball at the outside of his foot, finds Brandon Bye. Everything done right there from the Revs except for the finish, but Bye gets solid contact on that. A dangerous run just over the top.
And it was Diaz in the 15th minute for Dallas. Pinea in the 55th for the Revs. That's how we got here at 1-1. And now we're within the final 30 minutes. Again, we've seen some very specific substitutions. Rowe clears with Caldwell. Not quite into the final third, though. So Kindley there, looking for someone to play along, and again showing some good patience. Now you see Kindley hit the deck.
Kellenrow felt like he won the ball in that challenge. Fotis Bazakos disagrees.
Mauro Diaz's set pieces have improved as the game has gone along. We'll see what he can do here on this one from 35 yards out.
Nice redirect, but it goes awry. It'll be a goal kick.
Victor Yoa just offside there, getting a header on that one.
Revs now, offensive mode. Here's Tierney on the left. Pinea, Fagundes.
A little bit of safety first there from the Revs. We have seen them intent to play the ball out of the back quite a few times this preseason. It did burn them once again.
Mosquera gets a touch on it. Again, playing in his first match for FC Dallas. Came in to start the second half. Diaz. And New England has possession now. Again, Dallas showing some nice patience, not pushing anything. Carter, what do you think the benefit is then of possession when Dallas gets in that situation and you're unchallenged, so you don't have to push anything? What's that going to lead to offensively?
I think what they try and do is they try and sit back and let the other team make a mistake. If they stay compact and keep their shape, they're trying to really choke out any kind of an attack and really prevent anything from happening. And when a offense makes a mistake, you're often going to find someone out of position and you can hit him on the counterattack really quickly right away.
Fagundes got that little offensive sequence started. Dallas the other way. There's a through ball. And there's a chance for Mosquera.
And Jaleel Anibaba in good position there to snuff out that attack. An important addition for the Revolution this offseason. They came into preseason with just two natural center backs on the roster in Claude Dialna and Antonio De La Mea, and they may well end up being the Revs' starting center backs, but they needed a little bit of depth at the center back position, and Jaleel Anibaba, a 29-year-old veteran, he's played 7 years already in Major League Soccer with Chicago Fire, Sporting Kansas City, Seattle Sounders FC, most recently Houston Dynamo. A very experienced player, a vocal leader on the back line, and a player who can step in not only and fill in for you at center back, but can play at left back and right back as well. So giving the Revs some depth all across the back line.
Rowe and Tierney working together for the Revs that time. Dallas has possession. Throw in pretty deep in their own end, so we'll see how much New England pressures. That may do, but it's in touch again for FC. One as we reach the 70th minute of this Mobile Mini Sun Cup match. Both these teams play on Saturday. Bump in the back by Rowe.
Rowe not questioning the foul there, but I think, again, in one of those spots where he's okay giving away a foul. Obviously, if the Revs commit too many of those fouls, you're going to start seeing cards come out. But when Dallas starts breaking that way, feel like there's a little bit of danger. Kellano steps in, commit a foul, slow things down, let the Revs reset.
Absolutely. Completely stop the momentum. Now Cannon to the middle. Diaz. Into the box. Akindele.
Really nice touch from Diaz there to try and find Tesho Akindele, breaking down the wing just out of his reach. Can't quite get across over to Mosquera, but it's those little moments from Mauro Diaz that it's exciting to see come back over the course of this preseason and really kind of show you he's getting back to his full form.
Diaz again. Nice one touch forward. Aridi. Couple of bodies in the box. And it just doesn't connect. That ball bouncing about. Pretty hard to control. And a goal kick coming.
Tesho won't be happy with himself there. Looked like he was maybe trying to find Ulloa instead of trying to direct that ball on net, but a good chance for Dallas nonetheless.
And they have possession right back. Aridi in the middle of this. There's Mosquera. So now we're seeing a little more variety, too, out of Dallas in this attack.
You can see for the Revs in recent years, this is certainly something new. And Bob, you mentioned earlier, not a whole lot of the goal kicks going long. The Revs looking to play out of the back on the goal kicks quite a bit.
Aridi down, and the restart for Dallas. Mosquera wide to Ziegler. Diaz again. And so Dallas now controlling more of the possession, especially in the last 10 minutes. Diaz working. Diaz still working. Goes wide. Gets it back.
Really nice overlap from Anton Nedyalkov on the wing there. Coming down the left side to give Morrow an outlet. He had a bunch of guys in the box, but didn't have a whole lot of options there in the middle. Just unable to hold on to that pass back from Nedyalkov.
Change of direction. Tierney to Fagundes to the middle. There's Wright. Revs keep in play. Benia's already scored once.
Benia searching for that run at the back post. Wasn't there that time. Always interesting to see how teams approach games like this in preseason, because a scenario like this, 1-1 late in the match, would depend in the regular season where the game is, how the game's played out. If the Revs are on the road and it's 1-1 late in the regular season, perhaps they're looking to tighten things up and get out of there with a point. When you're at home, obviously you're pressing for the 3 points. So when it's these scenarios, when it's 1-1, 15 minutes left in a preseason game, it's interesting to see whether teams kind of implement a specific scenario and say, okay, with Brad Friedel, it's been kind of a staggered central midfield. Expected to see Zahibo play a little deep, Kellen Rowe central in a more attacking role, and probably Scott Caldwell playing in more of a number 8 role box to box today.
Go ahead.
You've got two real holding mids out there for Dallas. When you're trying to exploit the wings, they want to keep 2 guys back. Normally you see Carlos Gresso and maybe Kellen Acosta playing a little bit higher in the midfield, but today you've got Ja'Cory Hayes and Carlos Gresso. They're very physical players. They're both defensive minded, and so like Jeff said, it's going to be a battle in the midfield today.
And the Revs will certainly try to play through the wings, a little different than in years past. Not only Christian Pena out on the left side, bringing a little bit of a different element with a lot of pace, Femi Hollinger-Jansen out on the right side, but in Brad Friedel's system, the outside backs, Andrew Farrell and Gabriel Somi, will get up and down the flanks. They will get into the attack pretty often.
And you see number 6 in the back, but also coming forward extensively for FC. That is Anton Nedyalkov, and he had that first little bit of service. And he brings a lot of strength to a man who can bring the ball forward and start things.
He's a very physical player, and we've seen that at times during the preseason and his first couple weeks coming over. Obviously a new signing in the offseason from Bulgaria. He likes to get in players' faces. He plays a very physical and in-your-face style, and that's what FC Dallas likes on the wing. And you've got Ryan Hollingshead playing a wing back with him today, so Anton will stay a little further back in that back 3 with Reto Ziegler and Chris Reeves. But Nedyalkov's a guy as well that can get up and down the field on the wing if he needs to.
I was going to say, we've already seen quite a bit of range from him just that first couple of possessions, so definitely a good omen there. And looks like a guy you can kind of leave on his own too. He's going to make a good decision.
Absolutely.
Marking up a man.
Absolutely. He's very experienced. You know, he's in his early 20s, but still has a lot of experience and really coming in and trying to bolster the left side of that Dallas back line and add some versatility, but also a very defensive-minded player. An area Dallas kind of got exploited a little bit last year was down the wings and down the outside of the field.
Now that time you saw Hollingshead trying to get something started. He was marked up by Femi Hollinger-Jansen. And New England will change direction of the field. Start a run with Somi. And Jeff, I know one of the big challenges when you play so much from the outside, sometimes it's the midfielders who are kind of left out of the creative process, and then they need to be in the right spot. They sometimes find themselves going to the ball, so you have to have a little patience with that.
Yeah, I think everything's still going to start through that central midfield, and then it'll kind of build out from there. But you can already see the Revs trying to force a turnover down deep there. There's been a whole lot of that through the Revs' first 3 preseason games as well, is pressing at the right times, in the right places, trying to force turnovers in dangerous spots and turn the attack, turn into an attack from already the attacking third.
And we saw Femi a couple times now being pretty aggressive. challenging the ball. So again, the Revs like the left. There's Bunbury crossing the field to Farrell. Now in space, Caldwell. And a big strike and just wide, but a powerful shot from the exterior from Pena.
Yeah, Cristian Pena, we already saw him against the New York Red Bulls in the Revs preseason opener score from distance. And if the Revs can start getting some threats from outside, from those long-distance shooting positions, it's going to open things up for them because they didn't really have a whole lot of those threats last year.
Poor clearance there. The ball is centered up. A little off balance. That was Femi. Had the ball about 10 out. And now Dallas trying to clear, and New England forechecking really well here.
Yeah, these are definitely the spots where the Revs are going to want to pin teams in, not let teams get out. And the Revs certainly putting in the work down there. It's why Brad Friedel has emphasized so much fitness and energy in training, is because those are the areas where the Revs are going to want to pin teams in.
And of course that last opportunity created because Bunbury did not let the ball to escape on the far side of the field. So a good start on that front for the Revs. And some good pressure, but Dallas now has some combination. Diaz working with Barrios.
It's really interesting to watch Mauro Diaz over the course of this preseason, coming off of such a tough injury last year, returning from his torn Achilles in late 2016. Really wasn't the same player, and we've seen bits and pieces of him back to his normal self here during the preseason, especially on some set pieces. Dallas has 2 preseason goals from the foot of Mauro Diaz on a long set piece, but it's those through balls and those in-action plays that you really want to see his final touch. He almost had one with Michael Barrios there, but it's that last little touch he's trying to get in his game and get back into full form as one of the most creative players out there in that number 10 role.
And the Revs blunt that offensive thrust. A little casual, though, trying to clear it, but they maintain possession. And I say that, and now they don't. And now they do again. And it's Bunbury right in the middle of things, trying to save the possession. Zaibo left his feet.
You already get an idea as a Revolution fan 7 minutes into this one. Zahibo certainly not shy in a tackle.
And again, just going hard for the ball. Both players were. Gruezo ends up getting the worst of it. Both these teams playing with good purpose early on. We're in the 8th minute, scoreless. And of course, for FC, they'll play one more game against the Portland Timbers Saturday here in Tucson, and then it's right on to Champions League.
Planning to sprinkle a reserve match in there as well. Get some of the depth guys. There's 29 guys on this trip for FC Dallas, really the whole preseason camp that's remaining, and so they want to get some of these guys some action. They want to get, obviously, some of the main guys a lot of time here today, and then work in some game action for some of these other players as well, who will play a crucial role in the early part of the season as FC Dallas tries to balance both Champions League and an MLS schedule for at least the first couple weeks.
And of course, the Revs are making the trip of it out here, playing all 4 available dates in the Mobile Mini Sun Cup, where they're mixed in with Portland and Houston. Have a game on Saturday against the USL side, San Antonio FC, and they have a chance, of course, to play for the Cup Championship on February 24th. And this was a pretty worthy trip last year. Get to stay in one place for a couple of weeks, you get that block of time in Florida, the block of time in Arizona, and that, I know that really does well for team building.
A 7th consecutive year that the Revs have finished out their preseason preparations in Tucson, and we see the red card come out, I believe, for Wilfred Zahibo.
So even though everybody shakes hands as they stand up, the red does come out.
He's pulling out a yellow now. Might change his mind here just a little bit.
You know,
preseason action.
As much as it was severe, both players were taking a pretty aggressive line on the ball, and I don't think there was any malice intended. If there's a red, it's more as a safety reminder. But, you know, in a match like this, I mean, both these teams want to play full strength.
Certainly frustrating from a Revolution perspective to get Wilfred Zahibo into camp. Took a few weeks for him to get his visa situation sorted out. Arrived in Foxborough over the weekend, came out with the Revs to Tucson over the weekend, gets his preseason debut here today. Would have been an important at least 45 minutes for him to continue getting used to his teammates, but a rough challenge in central midfield. The red card comes out, and his day will end after just 8 minutes.
Really almost hate to see this in preseason, because it's not what the game is about. Obviously, with a difficult challenge like that, you have to police the game. But for both of these teams, this is a warm-up, and putting a man down in the 8th minute, 9th minute is very tough, and it's tough for either side to really get meaningful minutes out of this game when one team's playing a man up, one team's playing a man down. This isn't serving as a warm-up match. It's not doing them a whole lot of good to not play in a true game situation. Yeah,
and I do think as Diego Fagundes prepares to check into this game, I'm assuming that Fagundes will replace Zahibo and we will play 11v11. And that's really, that's for both teams, like Carter mentions. That's not just for the Revs not wanting to play a man down. That's for FC Dallas wanting to get experience playing against the full 11v11 side for the full 90 minutes. So this is the right decision in a preseason match. But for the Revs to lose Zahibo early and not be able to get him continue working into the team is frustrating, but it's a lesson learned as far as that type of challenge. He's that type of player. He's going to be a central midfielder who's going to go into tackles like that. He's going to bring that grit and that physicality, but there's a fine line, and you can't go over the line, and unfortunately, Fotis Bazako determining that Zahibo did go over the line here early in this match.
So Fagundes comes in. Productive 7-goal, 8-assist campaign in 2017. There's a nice ball through, but just a bit off when Femi had a lot of room to roam. He was kind of trapped offside, though.
Yeah, it looks like in terms of the Revs' central midfield, how they'll shift around. Diego Fagundes in a central attacking midfield spot, which we've seen him a lot this preseason through the first, 7 years of his MLS career, which is shocking to say considering today is his 23rd birthday. Through the first,
and it seems like he's been here forever.
7 years of his professional career, we've seen him a lot out on the wing. He's been playing central a lot more this preseason, so he'll slot into that attacking midfield role in behind Teal Bunbury. Kellen Rowe will drop a little bit probably into that box-to-box role, and Scott Caldwell will drop into the number 6.
Looks like Carlos Grueso trying to determine how severe that injury is. Victor Ulloa getting ready on the bench just in case. You really want to see Carlos Grueso get some time. Like I mentioned, FC Dallas wants to play with two very defensive-minded defensive midfielders, not really a linking midfielder in there with Grueso and Ja'Cory Hayes. So I imagine you want to try and keep Grueso on here, potentially for at least the rest of the first half if you can, but Victor Ulloa already on the bench should Grueso not be able to continue.
And you saw Oscar taking a hard look at that knee, too. Wanting to make sure, again, you want the guys out there, but you don't want them playing hurt. And I think especially for Dallas, with just the 2 matches here, I mean, there's a little more urgency to learn as much as you can here in this short period of time.
There's a little more urgency. These are the final tune-up games, but at the same time, you cannot risk an injury. This is you're 1 week out from really competition beginning, and from here on out, it's go, go, go. So an injury this late in the preseason is very damaging. I think you'd rather have a potential starter only go 10-15 minutes than have someone get injured and potentially miss CCL or MLS time.
Little contact in the box, but we play on. It was a good entry from Grueso.
And there was a similar sentiment from Brad Friedel talking to him in Bradenton about the Revs' first few preseason games, just asking him generally, what did you take from this match today? And the first answer was always, well, we came out unscathed. We didn't come out with any injuries. And that was always the top priority for him.
Well, we see over and over the drag of the season and all the things that can happen. And certainly, as you all know in Dallas, those small differences when it comes to the end of, in both these programs, just below the line last year. And, it's always easy to second guess about injuries, but you got to play the matches. But at the same time, any opportunity to maintain health is pretty critical.
Yeah, you'll see teams being really cautious as well. From a Revolution perspective, both Juan Agudelo and Christian Nemeth yet to see preseason minutes this year. They're just kind of dealing with nagging injuries, and they're both pretty close. And it might be one of those situations where if it was the regular season, would they give them a go? Maybe, but it's just not the time in preseason to be pushing guys.
You never want to risk it, especially in the preseason. We saw that with FC Dallas, last year taking a very ambitious preseason schedule, going down to Argentina, playing a game almost every day, whether it's starters, reserves, draft picks, trialists, kind of mixing guys in for 20, 30 minutes at a time every day. And you can see the wear and tear that caused towards the end of the season. And not to say that preseason was the cause of FC Dallas's late collapse, but it was certainly a factor within it. Guys were tired and worn out, and they've changed how they're approaching preseason this year. The team has spent almost the entire preseason in Frisco, playing at home, training at home, bringing in a couple preseason friendlies, a couple reserve matches. You have one trip, a 36-hour trip to Chattanooga to play an NPSL team there. And aside from that, this is FC Dallas's only trip of the preseason.
Now tight quarters here for FC Dallas, but now they get wide to Barrios. Barrios into the box. There's a chance. Nice save. Second chance. And that's in for the goal. Diaz in the 15th minute.
You really like to see those three combining up top. Barrios, Rudy, and Diaz really getting on the same page. Barrios with a nice ball he played into a Rudy nice sidestep in the box, and then Diaz right there to clean it up. And not a whole lot of clinical finish on that one, but able to avoid the defender and put it in the back of the net.
Rudy kind of created the better opportunity by forcing the defense to slide.
Absolutely.
I know it'll be frustrating for Brad Friedel. When we spoke at the end of the Bradenton trip, the Revs had not kept a clean sheet out there. He said one of his big goals in Tucson was to start putting some clean sheets on the board. So to concede 15 minutes into this one will be frustrating. And this is an important exercise for the Revs' central defense. Antonio De La Mea missed all 3 preseason matches in Bradenton. He was home in Slovenia obtaining his green card, which is huge for the Revolution because it opens up another international spot for them. But it did kind of take away some of that preseason opportunity for Dielna and De La Mea to play together in central defense. So this is the first time in a match opportunity this preseason that they've played together. And you saw Dielna maybe a little anxious there, kind of diving in on Urruti, and a quick step around from Urruti to create the initial chance.
Leave it to a goalkeeper to be concerned about clean sheets. And I say that with love because obviously Brad Friedel, one of our greatest ever and greatest Americans to play overseas, his lengthy career in England. And of course, it's a lot of his association with Tottenham, helping with their youth program. The new I was going to talk about fitness directors because that's such an important position now. He brings in Anton McElhone, who was with Tottenham.
And when I asked Friedel about Anton McElhone and the role that he's going to play in this club, he said he's absolutely massive. He is critical. When Friedel talks about playing a system that is going to press a lot, is going to require energy, is going to require the outside backs to get up and down the flanks, you have to have that fitness base. You have to be able to go for 90 minutes nonstop. And McElhone has taken it upon himself this preseason to really run the Revs, get them up to those fitness levels. But then, as Carter was mentioning earlier, there was a really delicate balance there in terms of getting yourself to the proper fitness level in preseason without putting yourself over the edge and getting to that opening game, worn out or tired. And I think that's where Anton McElhone comes in, is because this is a guy who 10 years of experience in the Premier League, knows exactly how to push each guy to the specific level. They're working on very individual programs for individual players, so it's not just a team-wide program. You have to look at each guy's, all of the data that you're getting from heart rates and work rate and all that, and work out all these individual programs for guys.
First set piece of the match, and that's Coleman. Sends it in, kind of dangerous with that low angle, still loose in front. Opportunity for Ziegler, knocked down, follow-up, still in the air, gotta clear that ball, and they do.
Reto Ziegler is a center back who likes to score goals. I talked to him when he signed, and he said, I'm coming to play defense, but I also want to score some goals. We saw that in FC Dallas's last preseason match against Cartagenes. He had a really nice finish on a similar play, kind of a rebound in the box. And on set pieces, he's going to be someone who he's taken set pieces at times in his career and scored goals directly from set pieces. He gets into the box. He can score with a head. He can score kind of those cleanup goals in the box, and he can do a lot. So really a nice tool to have for FC Dallas. You have Matt Hedges, who's also scored a couple goals in his career with headers and whatnot. You have your defensive players really getting into the action, and most of you see right there, great save, but most of FC Dallas's goals in this preseason have come from defensive players. You have Matt Hedges with 2 goals. You have Reto Ziegler. You have Ryan Hollingshead, who was playing as a wingback when he scored during Dallas's last preseason match. So many defensive players getting up the field and helping create chances within the offense.
And you go back to the save from Matt Turner there, a great young shot stopper. And I think when Brad Friedel came in and said we have open competition at every spot, including the goalkeeper position, a lot of people look at the more veteran keepers. Brad Knighton, who's obviously been in MLS for a long time, Cody Cropper just coming back from U.S. National Team camp, and kind of figured that starting spot is a battle between those 2 guys, with Matt Turner filling the number 3 role. But that really hasn't been the case this preseason. Matt Turner is in the mix in terms of fighting for that spot. This is his 2nd start this preseason, and he is a young goalkeeper still learning, but in terms of his shot stopping ability, he's as good as anybody on this Revs roster.
Well, he's made some great decisions already, and in close quarters, snap judgments, and the goal itself and the putback, that is not his problem. So he's shown a lot. There's always that, the alchemy of the goalkeeper getting hot.
And goalkeeper's a position where when you're young, I mean, Matt Turner at 24 years old, for an outfield player, 24 is when you're starting to get into your prime. You really should be seeing consistent first-team minutes by the time you're 24 years old. A goalkeeper, 24 years old, is still relatively young. There aren't a whole lot of starting goalkeepers who are that young. They're still spending a few years early in their career learning from the more veteran keepers, and that's kind of where Matt Turner is right now.
FC Dallas has gone through that too, with Jesse Gonzalez coming in as the starter late in 2015 and really taking that job. And then in 2016, he started as the starting goalkeeper. But Oscar Pareja loves to ride that hot hand, like we talked about. Goalies get so hot. And Chris Seitz took the job in 2016, and then Chris Seitz came into 2017 as the presumed starter, and Jesse Gonzalez took the job right back from him. So going into preseason, Jesse Gonzalez is the presumed starter for FC Dallas, but you have a goalkeeper in Jimmy Maurer who's got some experience at the lower levels with the New York Cosmos and really pushing for a job. And one thing that Jimmy Maurer does that I really like is he is a very vocal goalkeeper. He's amazing at organizing players in the back, and especially when Dallas is playing in an unfamiliar look like they are with this 3-5-2 setup, he's really good at that. He did that in the reserve match against San Antonio FC on Sunday, really organizing some of those first-year players and helping them along through his leadership in the back.
And I think that oftentimes that's a big step for young goalkeepers, and Matt Turner is the same way, a vocal goalkeeper. But as a young goalkeeper, I think it can be difficult to find that line when you're not quite a veteran yet and determining when to be vocal and when you can kind of lead. But as a keeper, when you've got the whole field in front of you, you have to be vocal. It doesn't matter how young you are.
You're the only one that can see everything that's happening. So, yeah, you have to be that. And as any young player, it's tough to really get your voice and find your voice in the locker room. But goalkeeper is one of those positions where you just have to do it because that's your job.
You can already kind of see that stagger in the Revs midfield as well, and a lot of interchanging as well as Diego Fagundes pulls out wide right. You can see Kellen Rowe and Scott Caldwell oftentimes playing alongside each other a little deeper in midfield. When one goes, the other stays. So a pretty fluid central midfield for the Revs.
And now our first set piece on the other end of the field. This is Kellen Rowe. Getting put in a good spot at the 6. And there'll be another chance. So I think it's safe to say that Brad Friedel deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of American goalkeeping.
Yeah, no question. You start talking about guys like Casey Keller and Brad Friedel, obviously Tim Howard in there as well. That goalkeeper position is one area where the U.S. has not had any trouble producing some world-class players.
And I think for the 4th, probably Hope Solo.
For sure.
I'm sure I've now just offended another American men's, but I think Casey, Brad, and Tim pretty much covers a couple of decades of excellence. I had the pleasure of watching Casey through his collegiate campaigns. He had a great fearless moment when Portland hadn't quite emerged yet. Clive Charles was just getting that team to the next level in 1988, and in a torrential rainstorm in Portland, he just magically denied UCLA, which was really the premier West Coast collegiate power in the late 80s. And he made Siggy Schmidt take notice.
I think a lot of keepers have those defining games. I know at the national team level, obviously, Casey Keller had that 1-0 win over Brazil when he stood on his head. Tim Howard had the game against Belgium, which unfortunately did not end the way the U.S. wanted it, but was something like 16 saves in that game, a lot of them of the highlight variety. It feels like there's always that one standout game from a career that a keeper is going to remember.
Danger there, and the ball's not going to get cleared, but there was a great chance there for Bunbury.
And we're still looking to find a little bit of that sharpness in the attacking third, getting it in some decent spots, but the final ball, some of the connections just haven't been there yet today.
And there's Bunbury right back in front, and another great save, and that is wide. Boy, Bunbury has put himself in the right position.
And of course, as I mentioned, the Revs struggling to get that final ball. A great ball across the face of goal from Kellen Rowe. Teal Bunbury does well to get on the end of it. It's a spectacular save from Maurer. And then Bunbury going to be disappointed with himself on the follow-up. But it was on him pretty quickly. But as a forward, I'm sure Teal's going to be frustrated that he wasn't able to put that rebound away.
And give Rowe credit for a very good service. Put the ball right in his foot.
And really, I'm sure Bunbury does what he wants on that initial shot. I feel like from that range, you put it hard on target, you're going to...
Else is trying to work on in this new kind of formation. You saw Chris Reeves come all the way across the box. He's the guy on the right side of the three-man back line, and you have to have some help. Reto Ziegler dropped back. Reggie Cannon came in from the far wing, but there's still some of that communication this group is working on, especially with Chris Reeves getting his first real action with Anton Nedyalkov and Reto Ziegler there in the middle, because like we talked about, Matt Hedges is not playing today, so that communication at the back is so important, and that's what these preseason games are for, is to really try and work out some of those kinks and work out the coverage there on those crucial moments.
Goal kick coming now. Dallas will take their time. You know, last time down we saw Rudy getting loose in the danger zone. We haven't talked about him much, but he's been similar. He's put himself in the same spots like Bunbury. And again, just off the mark.
It's actually Christian Pania gets into a great spot.
Or Pania, yeah.
He's opened up there, and Diego Fundes, all he had to do was lay the ball in front of Pania in a dangerous area, set himself up well for the shot, connected well, just didn't find the target.
So Pineda doing what Bunbury's been doing in this match.
And I think that is what the Revs will look to do a lot of time with the way that they might press, is try to turn defense into attack as quickly as they possibly can.
Victor Ulloa has been warming up, and he's completing his kit, so it looks like he's going to come on.
Yeah, I think you want to get Carlos Carreso off the field. You got him a nice little 30-minute run out, especially taking that collision early on with the red card. You really want to get him some time, but also take him out and rest him, because, like we've talked about, you can't afford injuries in preseason, and this is a precautionary sub for Oscar Pareja. I know he wanted to try and get as many guys in 90 minutes as he can, but in certain situations you just have to make the sub, and you'll worry about the 90-minute fitness later on.
We're just coming up into the 29th minute right now, 1-0 in favor of Dallas. Diaz on a rebound in the 15th. Notice kind of a gray day in the desert. We haven't talked about the conditions. It's actually quite cool.
Even a few raindrops, but it ain't snow, so I ain't complaining.
It's supposed to rain this afternoon, so we're lucky we're getting this one in the morning.
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of rain in the forecast today, so we are getting off a little easier. 2 more games scheduled here for the rest of the day. Portland plays Houston at 2 o'clock Mountain Time. That's a rematch of a Western Conference playoff series. And when you talk about injuries, there was a series that injury-free. Portland feels like they have a great opportunity, but they could not match Houston at all, down numbers last year. And then later, Red Bulls and Sporting making their debut in Arizona. A little snag of the shirt by Rudy.
You can see a lot of the times with the pressure the Revs will put on, it's not necessarily about forcing an immediate turnover, but a little bit of pressure on the keeper there forces him to play the ball maybe a little bit quicker than he wanted to, and then it's about Andrew Farrell winning that initial ball, Scott Caldwell winning the second ball, the Revs maintaining possession and then winning a free kick. So sometimes the pressure isn't necessarily about turning it over immediately, but just forcing the ball into an area where the Revs have a 50-50 shot to win the ball back.
I say no official stats being kept in these preseason matches, but the Revs have had significant possession in this first 45.
Dallas is a team that doesn't mind conceding possession. They typically, when they're playing in their 4-2-3-1 look, they like to concede possession to the opponent. It's how they play best. They play on that counter-attacking style. They don't mind sitting back and playing tight defensively. And I think especially in today's look, you're really trying to work on that defensive side of the ball. So you're not really going out and trying to win the pressure or win the possession battle. You're trying to work on your own kind of defensive shape and how things formulate in that final third.
And we've seen pretty much all those they've actually resulted in a real opportunity, too.
Absolutely.
So it's still quality.
And that's what a lot of these players do. You have Maxi Rudy, who plays that high-pressure system, who can win the ball back and puts pressure on the back line and the goalkeeper. You have Mauro Diaz, who is so good about finding someone on the streaking run down the wings, and Michael Barrios so quick down that right side. That really plays into Dallas' style, and at the end of last year they started to play a possession-based game, and I don't think it necessarily worked out for them. You're trying to win certain battles within the game, and I think that was one where maybe they started playing out of their traditional style, and I think they're trying to get back to maybe not trying to win possession, keep it 50-50, but not concede a whole lot.
Hollingsworth was whistled. So there's the restart. Bent in nicely, but right to the keepers.
That's a great ball from Kellen Rowe, and he finds Teal Bunbury in a dangerous spot. And again, Teal's in a spot right there where on a set piece like that, he accomplishes pretty much what he's trying to accomplish. He's just trying to redirect that ball on target with a little bit of pace. He does it. Unfortunately, it's right down the middle at Jimmy Maher, who was well positioned.
And again, the simplicity of a good set piece. The ball's put in the right spot. We've seen the Revs get a couple of these. That time you put the ball at the head of the player. We saw the good service earlier. In fact, I believe that was Rowe earlier. The ball on the ground right in front of the 6.
It was. Something the Revs missed dearly at the end of last season. Kellen Rowe missing the final 3 months of the season with a knee injury, came back just for the last about 5 minutes of the season, scored a fantastic goal to close things out in 2017. The Revs certainly missed his service and his threat from distance through the last couple months of the season, though.
And now the rain does begin to fall lightly. Not too much wind. In the desert, sometimes, the rain you're not worried about. It's the wind, because it can blow here. We had a couple games here last February where it was quite brisk.
Yeah, the Revs' first training session out here on Monday was incredibly windy. You see the goals as they were set up in the middle of the field were just on wheels, literally blowing across the field. So it was certainly swirling.
New England forced to take a foul here as Dallas was getting on that counterattack. Mauro Diaz and Ryan Hollingshead trying to combine down the left, and Mauro Diaz gets pulled down, and this is where about the same distance he scored his second goal, or second assist of the season, should I say, from the other side of the field, but playing a quick set piece on that one. We'll have to see what FC Dallas does here, but this is an area where they're really putting a lot of emphasis, because last season, scoring goals, they weren't doing hardly anything on set pieces, and defending, they were also having their own issues as well.
Nice bend by Diaz. Didn't quite connect. Just about a foot high. But the right idea.
Certainly an area of focus for the Reds as well. They struggled defending set pieces quite a bit last year. They did concede a couple of set piece goals against the Red Bulls in their first preseason match, but both of those direct on target. Not balls whipped into the box, but actually shots from about 18, 20 yards out. Both of them pretty unstoppable, but definitely an area in which the Reds are looking to improve this year is that set piece defending from the wide areas and corners.
Long ball forward. Revs don't maintain the possession, though. Let's see how Dallas builds from the back. And you know what? When in doubt, start over. But a good challenge there. A nice bit of forechecking by Bunbury, and that creates a set piece for the Revs.
Yeah, again, just a little bit of pressure from Teal Bunbury at the right time in the right spot. And it gives the Revs a set-piece opportunity.
He plants himself right in front of Bauer. You know the ball is coming to me. Right on the post. And Bauer, the only one that had a really good look at that, so he covers up. I'm sure he's not pleased about that corner, but he really had nowhere else to go. That was the right thing to do, to just take it over the line, because Bunbury was not going to let it out. Oh, here's Bunbury again. And we'll get a whistle there. That was Gabriel Somi.
Certainly another one Revolution fans will be interested to watch throughout these preseason matches. New signing coming in on the left side of defense, an experienced player playing previously his entire career in Sweden. Recently called in for the first time to the Syrian national team. So a player who's up and coming on the left side of the Revs back line.
Right to the referee there.
Certainly found him with the ball. Kellen Rowe not very happy.
No, it's not quite right. And he's had some really good service early on, too. So the Revs will rebuild from the back. Dielna in the middle of the defense today with De La Mea.
And Dielna, a player who came in midway through last season, joined the Revs in late July, early August, really settled in throughout the second half of the season, and now come in has really grabbed hold of a leadership role within this team. You can see him wearing the captain's armband today.
Good space for Farrell.
And Claude Dielna, Brad Friedel has said throughout this preseason that as a new coaching staff, they wanted to take the time to kind of assess the roster, determine who had those leadership qualities and capabilities. They've certainly identified Claude Dielna as one of those players. Brad Friedel said he has decided upon who his captain is going to be this year, but he won't reveal that until the season opener. But Claude Dielna has worn the captain's armband in all 4 of the Revs preseason games. At this point, it would be surprising if Claude Dielna wasn't wearing the armband in a couple of weeks in Philadelphia.
But that's a good omen, though. Somebody taking charge, everybody clearly recognizing that. Believe me, I think every coach and manager would much rather the athlete emerge than having to anoint them or go to a veteran and say, I need you to do this.
And there will certainly be multiple leadership voices within the Revolution locker room. Chris Tierney certainly in one of those roles, Teal Bunbury, Antonio De La Mea. But there will be one player who wears the armband on Saturdays, and at this point it certainly looks like it's going to be Claude Dielna.
Could adopt the Oscar Pareja method of varying who gets the armband. Mauro Diaz and Matt Hedges have traditionally split that when they're on the field, just kind of depending on who that leader is. They're both leaders all the time in the locker room. Obviously, with such a diverse locker room like FC Dallas, Mauro Diaz and a lot of South Americans and Spanish-speaking, Matt Hedges, English, and Victor Ulloa, also a guy that wears the armband on a decent basis as really the linking glue between the two languages spoken in the FC Dallas locker room, between English and Spanish. Victor Ulloa is the guy who is translating for a lot of when the other players are talking, and then Oscar Pareja delivering his message both in English and in Spanish, because you have such a diverse locker room, such a diverse setup in Dallas.
Saw Hollingshead get back again to cut down the angle on a ball on the line. So he's been active on the defensive side. Again, FC Dallas having a little trouble with clearance as they try to come back more traditionally out of the back building. The Revs continue to have good pressure forward.
I've certainly been on the front foot for the last 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of now breaking down an FC Dallas team who, when the Revs have had possession in these areas, has gotten relatively compact.
Bunbury working with Pania. That ball a little strong.
Yeah, those little connections are starting to come together earlier in this match. We really weren't seeing a whole lot of those connections come off. Now, starting to see those little interplays creating some opportunities. It's just a matter of putting them in the back of the net. We've seen Teal Bunbury with 2 golden chances, Christian Pania with a couple of great chances as well. But at this point, as we now approach halftime, the Revs still trailing.
But the two of them together, that was even better. Now they're connecting with one another instead of flying solo. And if you haven't been keeping track of preseason matches, there's been a minimum of stoppage. We did have the early injury, so perhaps we get a couple of minutes. Revs still looking to break through. Some room in the box. Momentum, though, taking Bunbury the other way.
I think Somi just drifting into an offside position there, but we'll continue to see him get up and down that left wing. He has liked that a bit as well. You saw him cut back there. A lot of the times he gets down to that byline. We haven't seen Somi just whip the ball in the box. He gets his head up, he looks for runners, and he'll cut that ball back to the top of the box if he can find someone open there.
So one of the few goal kicks of the match where teams have actually retreated into the midfield. As we work our way towards intermission. Some of these halftime intermissions have been shorter than their original schedule. We are expecting a full 15 minutes, but that may not be the case. Teams can, by agreement, change things. So if you're going to go make a sandwich at the half, you know, keep the sound turned up.
Yeah, I would think if teams were going to make wholesale changes at halftime, they're okay with a 5-minute halftime. I think both of these teams are probably going to leave the 11s that are out there right now largely intact to start the second half, so they might want to take a little bit more of that halftime break.
And again, we were told both teams were pretty intent to play a familiar 90.
See really the speed of Anton Nedyalkov coming back to keep that ball in play down the wing. Maybe early in the preseason, a ball that you kind of let go out of bounds. But for Dallas with really a final tune-up here, I'm personally expecting maybe a mixed lineup on Saturday. A little time for the starters, a little time for the reserves. So this is a full real test, and you see Nedyalkov going full out there to get back and get that ball and keep it in play.
And from a Revolution perspective, Brad Friedel has said this is the part of preseason where competition is really going to come into play. Now, there is no set starting 11. Every guy in training every day is still fighting for starting minutes. So guys don't have the luxury of pulling up on any plays. Guys are going full bore all the time to try to earn their spot on the field.
There's Nedyalkov, service forward. Well, he's shown us a little bit of everything. Some hustle and physicality, service. And, he's pretty lean. He's 5'11". He looks taller because of his length, but obviously showed some quicks. So set piece now for Dallas. Diaz sends it wide, and it'll be a goal kick for the New England Revs. So there will be 2 minutes of stoppage.
It does make sense with that.
Yes.
Zahibo challenge and red card. There was certainly enough of a stoppage there to warrant a little bit of extra time.
Well, this game's been played at a nice pace. Diaz brings it to the middle, still in possession, sent in, and then we saw Uridi leaving his feet, perhaps some contact, no whistle.
Really diving after that ball, trying to get any kind of effort. Morrow's last touch on that give and go, just a little bit out of his reach as Rudy was trying to stay onside there.
Rudy again now to Barrios. I like how Rudy just bounces back up. Something happens, say, I'm playing.
He's one of the busiest forwards I've seen in terms of he gets up and pressures when the defense has the ball, when the back line or the goalkeeper has the ball, but he also gets back and plays defense on his own side of the half. His work rate is incredible.
We referenced Saturday, FC will be playing the Timbers, who are also auditioning some new midfield people, and I think they'll be bringing some bodies in as well, so be interesting looking at the combinations in that match. That'll be at noon Mountain Time, so 1 p.m. Central. Oh, a little contact there, but we play on. Dallas into the box. I think he's getting a little vigorous here in the final minute of the half.
Well done there from Antonio De La Mea. Just had to get himself into the right position, keep himself between the man and the ball, make sure he doesn't foul. Not only that, wins the ball and gets the Revs headed back the other direction.
Michael Barrios looking for options in the box, but had Maxi Rudy kind of through some traffic, didn't really have Mauro Diaz quite open on the far side, wasn't able to do a whole lot, trying to take it himself, but like you mentioned, Jeff, real nice job getting back and nice work at defending there.
And that's it for the first 45. Dallas in the 15th minute.
Of course, of the preseason from Dallas in both reserve matches and full-on friendlies.
The injured player for New England is Farrell, and was down for a bit. Might have gotten poked in the eye.
Yeah, certainly looks like he took a little bit of contact to the face, but Revs head athletic trainer Evan Allen gives the thumbs up. Think Farrell's going to be okay to stay in this game. Looking at a full 90 minutes for Andrew Farrell here today. Not sure we're going to see any more changes from the Revs. To see, we look down at the two remaining substitutes with Nico Samayoa and Mark Segbers, a pair of super draft picks. Samayoa just put his sweatshirt back on, so not sure if we're going to see any minutes for either of those players today. We might see this group finish out the match.
That's interesting, though, considering, do you think of yourself, do you pretend you're the road team today and think about that, or do you just, hey, this is game minutes, let's just play free and do what we would normally do?
I think in terms of what Dallas is trying to do today, I think they're playing for game minutes. This is really your chance to get a lot of your starters a full 90 minutes. You want to play for the win, but at this point, 1 week out from competition with another game on Saturday, you're really trying to focus inward right now on getting your team in the best shape and hoping those scenarios come later.
We saw Farrell right back in the middle of things, so obviously feeling okay. Set piece coming now for the Revs.
And I think by next weekend, the Revs will be at a place where they're trying to put everything together for a full 90 minutes. Still at that point in preseason right now where there's probably a few specific things that Brad Friegel's trying to implement each game and really focusing on those things.
Rose sends it in from the corner. And now we go the other way. So let's watch Mosquera go to work in some open space. He's got your read out there with him. Now a change of pace. Still coming from the left. Centers up and in.
Absolutely Santiago Mosquera on that goal. Really taking the ball back in his own half, blowing past his defender. That is why FC Dallas brought Santiago Mosquera into the team.
And then as he got in the box at the end, he's not necessarily going to take it, sees the space, and put it right to Aridi.
Really impressive.
Right there. That's
almost a 100-yard run from Santiago Mosquera there to do all of the legwork on that goal.
And from a Revs perspective, you could see Andrew Farrell sensed that danger as Mosquera blew past Farrell at midfield. Farrell he was willing to take the yellow card in that scenario, tried to wrap his arms and totally stopped. The counterattack just couldn't get his arms wrapped around him. Away Dallas went, and unfortunately the Revs find themselves behind now with a little under 13 minutes to go.
And that is why Santiago is your young DP.
Absolutely.
So an impressive debut.
Really hadn't noticed a whole lot from him over the first part of this first half. Really, Dallas still working through some of the right side with Tesho and two different really formations here to start out the half, but you can see what he can do with just a little bit of space right there, and something he'll look to build on over the course of, I guess, the next few days of preseason.
Oh, here he comes again. And again with some space. Got to defend him. To the right side, this will result in a throw-in. And a little ankle-to-ankle contact there.
Yeah, a little bit of miscommunication from the Revs there on the back. Nearly led to Mosquera being in again. Jaleel Anibaba stepped. The rest of the back line hadn't, and Mosquera almost in.
Well, and you can tell Mosquera's in game mode. He didn't try to do too much when he first came in. He's not trying to impress anybody, but he's in game shape. And when he has the ball on his foot, he's going to make you defend him. You're going to have to react to what he does.
He plays with a lot of confidence, and we saw it there. He was coming down the wing, and he cut back into the middle. Dallas is not really a team that plays wide and sends in crosses. They like their wingers to cut back in. It's what Michael Barrios does from the right. It's what they're hoping Santiago Mosquera can do from the left, and you saw it there. He was able to cut back in and find Arudi in front instead of playing a high arcing cross, going for the header, going for the finish. They really want those wingers to come in and really clog the middle of the field and create chances in the box.
So Mark Segbers has checked in for the Revs, replacing Farrell.
And as expected, Segbers will go to the right wing. Brandon Bye drops back into that right back position. So the Revs right side of the field right now. Their pair of first-round Super Draft picks from this year, Bye at 8th overall, Segbers at 9th overall. So the second preseason appearance for Mark Segbers, who battled through an injury early in this preseason. And interestingly enough, both of his preseason appearances coming on the right wing in a more attack-minded position, even though the Revs drafted him with the right back position in mind.
Rowe will restart. Nice redirect on the header, right to the keeper. Well, this could end up being a pretty impressive super draft this year, because there was a shopping list, and the Revs went out and got guys who can play now, and they knew what they had. It's not like, oh, we're going to try this guy a couple different spots.
Yeah, they went into the draft knowing that they wanted to look at right-sided defensive players, guys who had attack-minded backgrounds but could play at right back. They drafted a pair of those guys, very similar players, at 8 and 9 overall in Bye and Segbers. And the idea was really to give Andrew Farrell some competition on the right side of the back line, and they've certainly both come in and done that. Both signed to contracts over the weekend, so they've earned their spots on the roster, and now it's up to them to fight for minutes.
And Segbers has offensive experience too, right? He's played up front.
Both Segbers and Bai were primarily attack-minded wingers in college. Really started to make that transition towards the back line later in their college careers. But that gives you an idea of the way that Brad Friedel wants to play his system. His outside backs are going to be very attack-minded players in this system, and that's why he looked at attack-minded right backs.
And running free there, Brian Wright had a chance if he could have knocked that ball down.
And just as we're mentioning Brandon Bai, he gets into a great position. Segbers sets him up on the right wing. First time ball from Brandon Bai, finds Brian Wright with a streaking run through the box. And again, it's just missing. All it's missing is the finish, but that is a fantastic ball from Brandon Bai, who has been very impressive in his first preseason with the Revs.
By the way, we've just received a note from the tournament committee here. We were talking about the red card earlier. That is now, it is a rule of the tournament that you can replace a red card player in the game, but you do have to serve the suspension for the following game. So it looks as if Sahibo will indeed have to sit on Saturday. That goes back to the early moments of the game. So in the 83rd minute, I suspect we'll get a couple of minutes of stoppage on the end because of the injury.
Did see the yellow card come out there. Not sure who it was directed towards, but as the Revs slow down another counter.
We'll get a restart here. Told that the yellow card was on Caldwell.
Pretty sure every yellow card Scott Caldwell has picked up in his entire career was a tactical professional foul to slow down a counterattack.
Just as long as you're keeping track of them and keeping them separated by just enough to avoid further discipline. But he's good at that. He's one of those players who always knows why what he's doing.
Everything with a purpose for sure, Scott Caldwell.
And Revs looking for the equalizer again, and you see Uridi there, not letting the ball clear without a hassle. Into the box, chance for Rowe. Defenders there, another chance, and there's the equalizer. Rowe kept it going, and Fagundes never gave up. And Fagundes levels us at 2.
Really, really clever from Diego Fagundes to get this entire sequence started. A little bit of dancing at the top of the box. Looked like perhaps the chance had gone when Rowe's initial ball was blocked, but stayed with it, stayed calm, got his head up, found Diego Fagundes in a promising spot, and Fagundes was not going to miss from there. Absolute thunderbolt under the crossbar.
Both Chris Reeves and Reto Ziegler going to prevent that initial chance going after the same guy, leaving Victor Ulloa and Reggie Cannon to cover 3 guys in tight on Jimmy Maurer.
And now Bazakos, our center official, having a chat with the Rudy. So we'll see how vigorous things get here now in the final 4 minutes, plus stoppage.
And Brad Friedel will be happy again to see his Revs side fight back twice here today.
Yeah.
And we saw that a few times in Bradenton as well. Conceded twice early to the New York Red Bulls before winning 4-3. Conceded first to Malmo before drawing that game 1-1. Of course, the flip side of that is you'd prefer not to concede first in every single match, but nice to have that mentality to fight back when you do find yourself behind in games.
And on the other side, Oscar Pereira obviously not going to be happy to concede a 1-goal lead twice over the course of the game, especially late. Something that Dallas did a few times last year was concede late goals to either lose or draw matches. One comes to mind in San Jose, a road match early on in the season where San Jose scores a stoppage time goal to earn a draw, and San Jose ended up advancing into the playoffs. Dallas left at home by means of 1 point. It was a difference between a win and a draw, and so Dallas is not going to be thrilled with a couple late goals here to concede a lead.
It was 1-0 Dallas at half. Diaz and Pinilla with the equalizer in the 55th. Arudi from Mosquera in the 77th, and Alfagundes. 2-2, that was in the 85th. Brian Wright has been pretty active in the box.
He certainly found himself in some good spots. The finish hasn't been there today. It was there earlier in preseason. Brian Wright finding himself on the score sheet against the New York Red Bulls. But a big year for Brian Wright. Coming off his rookie year last year, didn't get a ton of minutes, spent a little bit of time on loan. That's really where he got all of his actual first team action. But coming in this year for his second year in the league, I do think Brad Friedel sees a role for him with the way he plays forward as kind of a strong, powerful back-to-goal forward.
And some good size out there at 6'1". Zahibo at 6'2". You got some guys you can target.
Yeah, and Brian Wright's got the pace as well. He can hold the ball up. He's a big, strong body. Runners can play off of him, but he can also turn and get him behind a back line as well.
And that is offside. Again, Dallas and the Timbers, noon Mountain Time, 1 Central on Saturday. Revs, 4 Mountain, 6 Eastern against San Antonio FC. Jeff and I will be researching all about San Antonio to let you know. I'm sure you're going to be more interested, our audience in New England, of how the Revs react from this match. But I think a lot of good things on offense, and it's a good omen that this is going to be an entertaining team.
There'll be plenty to take away from this match on both sides of the ball for sure. Just overall, I think Friedel most frustrated with Zahibo, an opportunity to get his first significant minutes today. To see Red just 8 minutes into this one, you just kind of and now to be suspended for the next match, you just kind of lose an opportunity for some really critical preseason minutes here.
To contribute in the match, you got to stay in the match. All right, there will be 2 minutes of stoppage, as we expected. And let's see if anybody can mount a serious attack. Again, I like Dallas being patient, nothing to rush. Pinilla bumps Mosquera. Mosquera will restart. Now we begin our stoppage minutes. And let's see what the Revs can put together. They've been able to get into the offensive end pretty quickly. Tierney, the guy to get that started. Ball's in touch. Another little bump as Rowe tried to start things, and now Pinilla sends it to the other side. Work from there.
That's well taken from Segbers. A little bit of a loose touch there from Brandon Bai.
And Segbers has it right back. Needs a teammate. And Dallas will command possession here. And he has it back. Here's a Rudy. Rudy back defensively. And then takes a tumble, and that'll be a yellow. Dangerous play, flipping Rudy in the air.
I think no argument from Pania on that particular yellow.
Another one where Rudy dispossesses the ball, really causing some chaos there, and on the verge of spraying something the other way, and a foul you kind of got to take.
And this will probably be the last opportunity. Quick restart. New England has it. Diaz is down, but we play on, and that's it. So Diaz is up.